When I picked up the phone to ask my son Max when his wedding would be, I never imagined the answer would change my life forever. I was standing in my living room, sunlight coming through the window, the house quiet the way it usually was since my husband passed away. I had my phone in my hand, ready to smile, ready to hear excitement in his voice. Before Max could even speak, my daughter-in-law, Lena, looked straight at me, her lips curling into a small, cold smile, and said, "Oh, we already got married yesterday. We only invited special people." Those words felt like ice poured down my back. Special people? I stood there frozen, my fingers tight around the phone, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. For a moment, I thought I must have heard her wrong. Yesterday? Married? Without me? I looked at Max, searching his face, waiting for him to laugh and say it was a joke. He didn't. He couldn't even look at me. I had paid their rent every month for 3 years, $500 on time every single month. I had bought the sofa Lena was now sitting on, stretching comfortably as if she owned the place. I had filled their fridge when they had nothing to eat. I had bought plates, curtains, a bed, even the lamp in the corner. And now I was not a special person. The phone in my hand suddenly felt heavier than anything I had ever carried. Max finally spoke, his voice stiff, almost rehearsed. "Mom, it was just something small, very intimate, just us and a couple of witnesses." I knew he was lying. I knew it even before I later saw the photos online. But in that moment, I didn't say anything. I just nodded slowly, even though my chest felt like it was breaking open. Lena leaned back on the sofa, crossing her legs, relaxed and confident. I noticed her white manicure, the one she had shown me days earlier while asking me for money for the wedding expenses. In my closet at home hung a pale pink dress I had bought just for that wedding. I had spent $200 on it, imagining how I would look standing next to my son in photos, proud, happy, finally included. I had bought new shoes, too. All of it now felt useless, like a costume for a role I was never allowed to play. For weeks, I had planned everything in my head. I had saved $1,000 as a wedding gift. I had called my sister, Diana, in Chicago to tell her my only son was getting married. I had cleaned my house from top to bottom, thinking maybe they would come over after the ceremony. I wanted to cook for them, hug them, tell Max how proud I was. All of that collapsed in 1 second with 4 simple words: only special people. Later that evening, I saw the truth with my own eyes. Photos started appearing on social media. Lena in a white dress, smiling brightly, Max beside her, her parents standing proudly next to them, her siblings raising glasses of champagne, a full celebration, a real wedding. The $800 I had given Lena last month for personal expenses had helped pay for that dress. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. I did not appear in a single photo. A week later, exactly 7 days after that humiliation, my phone rang. It was Lena. Her voice sounded completely different this time. The confidence was gone. She sounded nervous, almost scared. "Renata, the rent is overdue. The landlord says if we don't pay this week, he will kick us out. You forgot to make the transfer." I said nothing for a few seconds. My mind replayed every trip to the bank, every canceled plan, every simple meal I ate so they could live comfortably. Beans and rice instead of meat, old clothes instead of new ones. I had convinced myself that love meant sacrifice. "Renata," I finally said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded, "didn't I tell you I only help special people?" The silence on the other end was so deep I could hear my own breathing. "Renata, I don't understand," she stammered. "We're family. We're always special to you. You're like a second mom to me." Lies, soft, sweet lies, used only when she needed something. the same voice she used when asking for money for the wedding dress, for the rings, for the honeymoon, things I helped pay for without ever seeing the moment they were used. For years, I had walked on eggshells around them. I chose my words carefully, afraid of upsetting them. I gave without asking, hoping for just a little love in return. I was the perfect mother, the quiet helper, the woman who existed only when money was needed. That phrase, "only special people," woke something inside me. That night, I sat on my bed and cried, not soft tears of sadness, but heavy tears of anger. I cried for the woman I had become, for the years I spent trying to be needed instead of respected, for confusing love with payment, for letting myself disappear. The next morning, I woke up feeling different, cold, clear, awake. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and studied my face. The wrinkles were still there, the tired eyes too, but behind them was something new, a firmness I had not seen in years. I made my morning coffee like always, but this time I did not think about calling Max. I did not wait for an apology that never came. I sat at the kitchen table where I had planned their expenses for years and took out my bank papers. I started adding everything up. $500 rent for 36 months, $18,000, food and groceries, gifts, emergencies, the car loan they promised to repay, the air conditioner repair, the furniture. When I finished, my hands were shaking. The total was over $33,000. Money from my retirement, money my late husband left so I could live peacefully. My phone rang. Max. I let it ring. It rang again. Lena. I ignored it. A message appeared. "Mom, please answer. We need to talk." I deleted it. That afternoon, I went out for a walk. Just a walk. No errands, no bank, no store for them. I walked past the park where I used to take Max when he was a child. I remembered a little boy who once held my hand like he was his whole world. Somewhere along the way, I had become just his wallet. At the bank, I went straight to the manager's office. Mr. Klein looked surprised to see me. "I need to cancel all automatic transfers," I told him, "and I want to protect my accounts." He asked gently if something had happened. I looked him in the eye and said, "Yes, I finally opened my eyes." As he processed the papers, my phone kept vibrating in my bag. I turned it off. When I left the bank, I felt lighter than I had in years, like I had put down a heavy bag I didn't even realize I was carrying. My money was mine again. But when I reached my street, my heart dropped. 3 cars were parked in front of my house, Max's, Lena's, and another one I didn't know. I saw movement inside through the window. They still had keys. I took a deep breath before opening the door. I didn't know this yet, but this was only the beginning. When I opened the door, all the voices inside stopped at once. The air felt thick, like something heavy had been sitting there waiting for me. Max was standing near the kitchen counter, his shoulders tight. Lena was on the couch, holding her phone like a shield. 2 people I barely recognized stood near the window, her parents. Her mother looked up first. She smiled, but it was the polite kind that never reaches the eyes. "Renat, finally, we were worried. You weren't answering your phone." I stepped inside slowly and closed the door behind me. The sound of it shutting felt loud, final. I put my keys on the table and took off my coat, moving calmly even though my heart was beating fast. "I was busy," I said. Max rushed toward me. "Mom, we've been calling you all day. Why did you turn off your phone?" I looked at him the same way I used to look at strangers, carefully, from a distance. "Because I needed quiet," I said, and I got it. Lena stood up, her face tight. "This isn't the time for drama. We're dealing with a serious problem. The rent wasn't paid." Her father cleared his throat and spoke like he was in charge. Renat, we understand there may have been a misunderstanding, but young couples need support. Family helps family. I almost laughed, but no sound came out. Instead, I walked past them into my kitchen. They all followed me like I was still the center of their world. I poured myself a glass of water and took a slow sip before turning around. I asked when the wedding was, I said softly, and I was told it already happened, yesterday. Only special people were invited. No one spoke. Lena looked away. Max stared at the floor. I want to understand something. Am I family when there is a bill to pay, but not family when there is something to celebrate? That's not fair, Max said quickly. You're overreacting. It was Lena's idea to keep it small. I looked straight at Lena. Small weddings don't have banquet halls, photographers, and champagne towers. Her mother crossed her arms. That money came from us. I nodded. Some of it did. Some of it came from me. Lena's face changed. You gave that money freely. You never said it was a loan. You never said I wasn't invited. The room felt colder. I could feel years of silence inside me breaking apart. I helped you because I believed we were close, because I believed I mattered. But I see now that my place was very clear. I was useful, not important. Max finally looked at me, his eyes red. Mom, please, we didn't mean to hurt you. Intent doesn't erase pain, and love doesn't survive disrespect. Her father stepped forward. So what are you saying? You're just going to abandon them? I smiled sadly. No, I'm saying I won't be used anymore. Lena's voice sharpened. So you're cutting us off because of one mistake? One mistake lasts a moment. This lasted years. She scoffed. You're being dramatic. Maybe I was, but for the first time, it didn't matter. I've canceled the automatic transfers. I won't be paying your rent anymore. Silence crashed down hard this time. Max's face went pale. Mom, you can't do that. You know we can't afford it alone. I know, and that's the problem. You built a life that depended on me without my consent. Lena's mother gasped. This is heartless. Heartless is being erased. Heartless is standing outside your own child's wedding. Lena stepped closer, her eyes shining with anger. You owe us. You promised to help. I kept my promise. You broke yours. Max suddenly dropped into a chair, holding his head. This is too much. We just got married. You should have thought about that before. Marriage comes with responsibility. Her father laughed bitterly. So you'd rather see them homeless? I'd rather see them grow up. Lena's eyes filled with tears now, but they didn't soften her voice. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? I looked at her, truly looked at her, and for the first time I saw the truth. You never did anything for me. You only took. The words hit her hard. She turned to Max. Say something. He stood up slowly, torn. Mom, maybe we can talk about this later. Just help us this once. I shook my head. This once has been happening for 3 years. I walked to the door and opened it. Cool air rushed in. I need my keys back, I said. Max hesitated, then pulled them from his pocket and placed them in my hand. That small metal weight felt like freedom. Lena's mother shook her head. You'll regret this. You'll die alone. I met her gaze without fear. I was already alone. At least now I'll be at peace. They left one by one. Max was the last. He stood in the doorway, tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, too, for everything. When the door closed, the house felt quiet again, but this quiet was different. It didn't hurt. That night, my phone buzzed with messages, some angry, some begging, some promising change. I read none of them. I slept deeply for the first time in years. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight and silence. I didn't rush. I didn't check my phone. I made breakfast and sat at the table, breathing slowly. For the first time, my life felt like it belonged to me. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know how far they would go to pull me back, but I knew one thing. I was done being invisible. 3 days passed without a sound from them. No calls, no messages. The silence felt strange at first, like a room after a storm when everything has stopped moving. I kept waiting for the panic to hit me, for guilt to take over, but it didn't. Instead, I felt steady, calm. I cleaned the house slowly, opened windows, let fresh air move through rooms that had carried too much tension for too long. On the 4th day, there was a knock at my door. I knew who it was before I opened it. My body felt it. I took a breath and pulled the door open. Max stood there alone this time. He looked tired. His hair was messy, his eyes dull like he hadn't slept. He didn't step inside. He just stood on the porch, holding his hands together like a child who knew he was in trouble. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded and stepped aside. He walked in carefully, like the house was no longer his. That thought hit me harder than I expected. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I had counted my money, planned their life, and erased myself. I waited. "We had to leave the apartment," he said quietly. "The landlord gave us 48 hours. I stayed silent. "We're staying with Lena's parents for now. It's crowded. Her father keeps reminding me that I'm not providing enough." I looked at him then, really looked. For the first time, I saw a man who had avoided growing up by leaning on me. "I'm telling you this because I want you to understand, not to make you feel bad." I nodded slowly. "But you do want help." He didn't answer, and that was answer enough. "Max," I said gently, "do you remember when your father died?" He swallowed. "Of course I do. You were 16. You cried in my arms and asked me what we would do. I told you we would be okay, and we were, because I worked harder. I learned how to survive alone. I didn't ask anyone to carry me." His eyes filled with tears. "I didn't realize how much you were giving." "I was giving because I was afraid of losing you, afraid of being alone." He shook his head. "I never meant to make you feel that way." "I know, but intentions don't change patterns." He leaned forward. "I messed up. We both did, but Lena is pregnant." The words hit me like a wave. Pregnant. I felt my breath leave my body for a second. 1,000 emotions rushed in at once. Shock, fear, joy, and then clarity. "Congratulations," I said softly. His face crumpled. "That's it? That's all you're going to say?" "What else should I say?" I asked calmly. "That I will rescue you again?" He stood up, frustrated. "This is different. There's a baby now." "I know. That's why it's time for you to become a father, not a dependent." His voice broke. "I don't know how." I reached across the table and placed my hand over his. Neither did I, but I learned. He pulled his hand back and stood there, torn between anger and shame. "Lena says you're punishing us." "I'm teaching you," I replied. He left shortly after. No shouting, no threats, just silence again. That evening, I received a message from Lena, a long one. I didn't open it right away. I made dinner first. I ate slowly. Then I sat on my couch and read it. She accused me of ruining their marriage, of choosing money over family, of holding grudges. She said stress was bad for the baby. She ended by saying a good grandmother would step in. I didn't reply. The next week I met with a lawyer, not to attack them, to protect myself. We talked about boundaries, about financial separation, about what helping really meant. When I left his office, I felt strong, prepared. A few days later, Max called again. This time, his voice was different. "We got jobs," he said, "both of us." "That's good," I replied. We're looking at smaller places, not great ones, but something we can afford." "I'm glad," I said. There was a pause. "Are you really not going to help at all?" "I will help in ways that don't destroy me. Advice, support, love, but not money." He was quiet for a long time. "Lena won't like that." "This isn't about what she likes. It's about what's healthy." Another week passed. Then another knock. This time it was Lena. She stood there stiff, her hands clenched, her eyes guarded. For the first time since I met her, she looked unsure. "I came alone," she said. I stepped aside. We sat across from each other. The air between us felt raw. "I didn't think you mattered that much," she said suddenly. "Not like that. I thought you were just always there." Her words were blunt but honest. "I was always there," I replied. "That's why you didn't see me." She looked down. "I didn't invite you to the wedding because I was afraid." "Of what?" I asked. "Of that you would see how little Max and I handled on our own," she admitted. Silence filled the room again, heavy but real. "I was wrong," she said quietly, "about a lot of things." I studied her face. "Being wrong is only the beginning," I said. "What you do next matters." She nodded. "I want my child to grow up respecting people, including you." I leaned back, feeling the weight of her words. "Respect isn't asked for, it's shown." She stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. "I don't know if we can fix this." "I don't know either, but it won't be fixed the old way." After she left, I sat alone again, but this time I didn't feel empty. For years I had thought love meant giving until nothing was left. Now I knew better. Love also means standing still and letting others walk on their own. And though the road ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear. I had finally chosen myself. Weeks passed, then months. Life did not suddenly become perfect, but it became honest. That alone made everything feel different. My phone rang less often, and when it did, it was no longer about bills or emergencies. Sometimes Max called just to talk. Sometimes he didn't. I learned to let that be okay. I spent more time doing things I had put off for years. I joined a small book club at the local library. I took long morning walks without checking my phone. I painted the spare bedroom a soft blue just because I liked it. For the first time since my husband died, the house felt like it held me, not drained me. One afternoon, Max came by to show me photos of the ultrasound. He looked nervous, like he was unsure if he had the right to share that moment with me. I smiled and looked at the screen. A tiny shape, a future. "It's a boy," he said quietly. I felt tears rise, but they were gentle tears, not painful ones. "I'm happy for you," I said, and I meant it. Lena didn't come with him that day. Instead, she sent a message later saying thank you for my time. It was short, simple, real. That was enough. They moved into a small apartment across town. It wasn't pretty. The walls were thin and the furniture mismatched, but it was theirs. They paid their own rent. They argued and solved problems without calling me to fix everything. I saw Max growing into someone I had always hoped he could be. When the baby was born, they called me from the hospital. Lena sounded tired but calm. "If you'd like to come," she said, careful with her words, "we would like that." I went the next day. I stood beside her bed and looked down at the baby sleeping between them. So small, so new. "Hello," I whispered. Lena watched me closely as I held him. Then she said something that surprised me. "I want him to know you, the real you, not just someone who gives." I nodded. "Then you have to let me just be." She did. Months later, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, Max and Lena came over for dinner. It was simple food, soup, bread, nothing special, but we laughed. Real laughter, not forced, not polite. I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. I felt present. After they left, I stood in the doorway and watched their car disappear down the street. I felt proud and peaceful. That night, I hung the pink dress back in my closet, not with sadness, with understanding. That wedding was never about me, but my life was. I went to bed with a clear heart. Sometimes love looks like walking away, and sometimes that is the only way it can truly come back.